Hey guys, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf with you. We got a hell of a show today. We're going to talk about the sham investigation into Brett Kavanaugh. Look, we got a lot of Kavanaugh news. So we've got the sham investigation. We have Republican senators, where they're going to fall on very important key Republican senators, where they're going to fall on the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. We also have North Carolina Republicans showing how classy they are in attacking Blasey Ford. We've got Megyn Kelly being Megyn Kelly. We have the fate of the blue wave. It's not looking good today, folks. Then we'll talk about how I was wrong about Amazon. Wrong. And so, look, I gotta admit, there was some naivete on my part. And I want to apologize. And then I want to set it straight because there's new news on Amazon. So, yeah. Full cynicism mode today. Engaged. So, I'm not having a good day. Like, ain't nobody having a good day, except unless, of course, you're Donald Trump or Brett Kavanaugh. So we also have, later on today, Bernie Sanders. The one piece of good news I have for the day, and it's going to be on Bernie Sanders. So, of course. All right. Anyway. Before we dive into the show, I want to let you know we're at still at around 89,000.5 subscribers. Got to hit that 9,000 or 90,000, I should say. Well, I'd love it if I got 9,000 in a day. Then we'd just be almost there to get 100,000. So if you haven't already subscribed or please do and share this to your friends. Tell them to subscribe as well if they're interested in progressive commentary. So anyway, now, not only that, but we need help. So I know, always asking for help, right? That's because we don't have big money behind us. We don't have big money. We don't have investors. All the money that I get is either from you guys through Patreon or from YouTube, and YouTube has become unsustainable and deeply unreliable. So, look, on the financial side, things are not fantastic. So, I'm just going to let you know about that. Just being 100% honest, that's why we need patrons. So, I want to do a patron drive. I want to get us to 500 patrons. That way we can be sustainable. So 500 patrons, I think we'll be sustainable at 500. We're currently at 300. So, look, if you guys have an extra $1 or $3 a month and you want to throw it towards this show, is greatly, deeply appreciated. So that's all I can say. Thank you to the patrons that I already have, but we do need your help. We need to be self-sufficient and not rely on YouTube revenue, because if I do, the show's going to go under and we're not going to have a show anymore. So that's the reality of the situation. So patron drive, very important. If you can, do. If you can't, share. That's the best way to help the show. Okay. Anyway. Let's dive into the stories. This first one is going to frustrate the hell out of you. All right. So the investigation by the FBI into Brett Kavanaugh is over. It's done. No, wait a minute. They promised a week. Well, it turns out we didn't even get a week. We got a few days. And now, of course, they have turned in the results of that investigation, and currently there are members of Congress that are now being able to review it. Now, the report itself, how you're able to review it, is an insane story by itself. So they have it locked in a room. There's one copy. It's locked in a room, and congressmen can go in there. They can make notes, but then they can't take the notes with them. It's got to stay in there. So I guess this is to prevent leaking to the press, right? Okay, so that's the report itself. So we don't know what's actually in it, right? Now, we do know from senators' statements saying, statements from Flake and Collins and Murkowski saying, hey, man, look, we didn't see any evidence in there that Kavanaugh did any of these things. So that's a disaster. Now, Republicans are like, great, okay, you got your investigation. Now let's have a vote. And they have a vote scheduled on Kavanaugh for tomorrow. So, and they could possibly confirm him by this weekend. The Democrats, of course, are saying, wait, what are you doing? What's going on here? We have a lot of witnesses, potential witnesses. And I've reported on this before, saying that the FBI didn't talk to us. We submitted, requests for the FBI to come and interview us because we believe we have corroborating information. And the FBI didn't talk to us at all. They never returned our calls. They didn't talk to us. They didn't get our evidence. And look, a lot of this has been documented in a recent article in the New Yorker. Came out earlier today from Jane Mayer and Ronan Farrow. So they wrote about this, and they said that frustrated potential witnesses who have been unable to speak to the FBI conducting the investigation into sexual assault allegations against Trump Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh have been resorting to sending statements unsolicited to the Bureau and to senators in the hopes that they would be seen before the inquiry concluded. Now, the inquiry is already over. That's it. They're done. They've already looked at it. They've already decided, yeah, we got the result that we wanted. I know I'm making a lot of speculation here, but I absolutely believe that this is exactly the result that they wanted, that there was no corroborating evidence to say that Kavanaugh had done anything wrong. Now, NBC News reported earlier that dozens of people who said that they had information about Kavanaugh had contacted the FBI field offices, but agents had not been permitted to talk to many of them. Several people interested in speaking to the FBI expressed exasperation in interviews with the New Yorker at what they perceived to be a lack of interest in their accounts. Now, look, these are people that could corroborate accounts like from Deborah Ramirez. Now, Deborah Ramirez said in an interview that she had been hopeful that her story would be investigated, right? And they did talk to her, right? So last weekend, they interviewed her at her lawyer's office. However, Ramirez says, well, they didn't really ask me a whole lot. They asked me some questions. In fact, half the questions they asked was basically, is this a Democrat plot? Is this nothing more than just political? Are you playing political games? Is this what this is about? Did the Democrats coach you? Now, look, if you want to ask that question, okay, I get it because you want to be thorough, right? Because there's a possibility that there could be political tricks. However, if you ask them that, and then she says, well, obviously, no, I'm not. In fact, here's a list of people that can corroborate my story. As I said, Deborah Ramirez was the one that claimed that Kavanaugh at a party whipped out his junk and put it in her face. There are witnesses. She says, go talk to them. They will corroborate my story. Did the FBI do that? No, they did not. In fact, Ramirez said, quote, I feel like I'm being silenced. Well, where have we heard that before? Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's own testimony said that, and this is probably the most damning thing, and this is what I can think of. During that testimony, she said that Kavanaugh put his hand over my mouth in order to silence me, to keep me from screaming. If this is not a pattern, right, where powerful men in powerful positions are literally silencing women. Come on. Anyway, there's more. Now, one of these former Yale students had came out and had information about Ramirez, right? So I told you there's a lot of corroborating, people that have corroborating evidence that are willing to testify. One of them is Kenneth Appold. Now, Kenneth Appold was a suite mate of Kavanaugh's at the time of the alleged incident. He had previously spoken to the New Yorker about Ramirez on condition of anonymity, but he decided, you know what? No, I'm going to come out publicly because, look, first, I didn't care about his nomination. I thought he'd be fine as a Supreme Court judge. But then, during his testimony, when he claimed, oh, I'm a choir boy, I didn't do anything wrong, and all that, he's like, no, you're consistently lying about this. I need to say something. And now he's been willing to come on the record and expose himself, not in the way that Kavanaugh exposed himself, or allegedly, but expose his name and everything. To say, I know Kavanaugh. I know he's lying. I know he's not being honest. So, let me give you some more information here about Appold. He said that he first heard about the alleged incident involving Kavanaugh and Ramirez either the night it occurred or 2 days later. So, look, Appold wasn't there, but he heard about it. He heard about it from someone else. He had the name. He's willing to give the name to the FBI of the person that was actually there that told him, look, I know there's the argument of, well, how far do we have to chase this rabbit hole now? The thing is that it would depend on manpower, right? If the Republicans said, okay, we're going to assign a bunch of agents on this so we can get to the truth of the matter, and we're going to do it quickly, I would have been fine with that. Didn't look like they put a lot of manpower into it. They didn't chase down any leads, any corroborating evidence. And so we get the result that we get, right? Now, the thing is that Appold said he was 100% certain that he was told that it was Kavanaugh, the male student, that exposed himself to Ramirez. 100% chance. Now, if they're saying, look, I don't know, it might have been Kavanaugh, it might not have been Kavanaugh, I'm not entirely sure. Okay, I would understand not following up that lead. But he is 100% certain. He says, no, I know that's the guy. Talk to him. Nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to talk to him at all. Now, he said he had never even discussed the allegations with Ramirez. So there goes to, they're getting together and they're plotting against Kavanaugh to try to ruin him because of some sort of Democratic plot. No, that's not what's happening. In fact, he recalled details in which he said an eyewitness described to him at the time that matched Ramirez's memory of what happened. Quote, I can corroborate Debbie's account, he said in an interview. I believe her because it matches the same story I heard 35 years ago, although the two of us have never even talked. Appold also recalled telling his graduate school roommate about the incident in 1989 or 1990. That roommate, Michael Whetstone, who is now an architect, confirmed Appold's account and said, it stood out in our minds because it was a shocking story of transgression. Now, Appold, as I said before, he knew Kavanaugh, right? He was a roommate, okay? So now he knew Kavanaugh, and he's like, look, there are two different accounts of Kavanaugh. One that he was, a good guy, right? Reserved, shy, etc. But then he'd get drunk, and then he would become aggressive and belligerent. In fact, here's what he said. Quote, we didn't hang out together, but there was no animosity between us either. He said there are two sides to Brett. Both are correct. Now, other things, the fact that a lot of people called him studious and reserved and a little bit shy, that's right, but also the other side of Brett is also right. Which, look, that's what you see when people drink. They reveal who they actually are. It removes inhibitions, and you get to see who this person is behind the mask of sobriety. Okay? Now, and he said when he was drinking, Brett could be aggressive and belligerent. He wasn't beating people up, but there was an edge and an obnoxiousness that I could see at the hearings. When I saw clips of Kavanaugh's Senate testimony, Appold said, I remembered it immediately. So that's Apple. Okay. Now, in addition to Apple, several other former Yale classmates said that they had reached out to the FBI about Kavanaugh, but had not received a response. One of them was Stephen Kantrowitz. Now, that's a former Yale classmate, and he said in a text message that, quote, "No one who lived in Lawrence Hall, so far as I know, has been contacted by the FBI." What a charade. Well, I can agree with that. This is absolutely a charade. It's a fraud. It's a sham of an investigation. And how dare the FBI try to pass this off as an actual thorough investigation? How dare the White House and the Republicans pass this off as a legitimate investigation? They didn't even give 1 week. Oh, but how long is this investigation supposed to go on, man? Look, you want to talk about sham investigations as well. Look at Benghazi. How long did they spend on Benghazi? 7 investigations, some of them taking years to complete. And they couldn't give any more than a week, a few days, on investigating Kavanaugh for some very serious, credible allegations. What a sham, what a crock of bullshit that this is. Come on. There's more. 2 high school acquaintances of Kavanaugh's have also submitted sworn declarations to senators and to the FBI. A classmate of Kavanaugh's at Georgetown Prep, who has to remain anonymous because of the intensity of the partisan fight over Kavanaugh's nomination, submitted a signed declaration to the FBI after visiting the FBI's field office nearest to his home, where he was told that they didn't do in-person interviews. He said he was hoping to hear someone back, but hadn't. In a statement to which his attorney also sent to several members of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, he described Kavanaugh as part of a clique of high school athletes, most of whom were on the football team, who routinely picked on less physically fit or popular students. Now look, that's normal in every single high school, so that doesn't necessarily stand out. He said that he never witnessed Kavanaugh physically attacking another student, but he recalled him doing, quote, nothing to stop the physical and verbal abuse. Instead, he said, Kavanaugh just stood by and laughed. Now, that stood out to me. Now, why? Well, when we go back to the hearings from Blasey Ford, she pointed out that the thing that is most in her head, indelible in the hippocampus, is the laughter that they shared at her expense. The laughter between 2 friends. That right there, come on. I hear that, and I don't know. It just kind of hits something. Just the fact that this is the kind of person he is. Now, in his statement, he also said that he recalled on multiple occasions Brett Kavanaugh counting on his fingers how many kegs they had over the weekend. The amount that he heard Kavanaugh describe, he said in the statement, seemed to be an extreme amount of beer drinking for someone to consume at any age, let alone in high school. He said that he also recalled Kavanaugh participating in general conversations where the football players were bragging about their sexual conquests over the prior weekend. Now, this is, of course, goes back to Renata, where, look, he came out with that ridiculous poem. I'm not going to repeat it here. Where he actually describes her or says her name as Renate when it's actually Renata. And he called himself a Renata alumnus. And that's what they did. Which Renata herself is like, that is deeply hurtful. I thought that they were my friends. They were never your friends, Renata. Never. People like that, I hate people like that because I knew people like that in high school. And I think all of us have. But that in itself, not disqualifying for the Supreme Court, but the lying is. I believe that the lying is, and the definite naked partisanship that he has shown during these hearings, I believe are definitely disqualifying. But are we going to get any of that in the FBI report? No. No, we didn't. Not at all. You lied under oath about his drinking. You lied about Renata. Pathological liar. And guess what? There is a very, very good chance that by the end of the week, he will be on the Supreme Court. this was a sham investigation, a mockery of an investigation. And of course, look, the American people, we're not going to get to see the investigation. We're going to get to see to the results, unless somebody leaks it, which seems unlikely. But the reason that they did this, the way that they did it, the way that they limited this, there were 40 people, around 40 people, willing to give evidence to the FBI. They didn't talk to them. They talked to 10 people at most. That's it. 10 people. You know why they did that? You know why they limited it? Politics. They're playing politics. Everybody knows that this is a sham, even the Republicans, because that was the whole point. They set this up to say, look, hey, we investigated Kavanaugh. We gave you everything you wanted, Democrats. Look at our investigation. They found nothing, right? Nothing wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. So now let's move forward. Let's go already. They know what they're doing. These Republicans know what they're doing. Look, we got to stop playing patty cakes with these monsters. They don't care about us. They don't care about fairness. They don't care about rules and norms. No, we've got to fight them because they're going to fight dirty. And maybe it's time that we get in the mud too. Okay. That took a little longer than I thought it did. But, all right. So now that the FBI investigation into Brett Kavanaugh is over and a vote is being planned, several Republican senators have finally weighed in on whether or not they may vote for the confirmation of Kavanaugh. Now, despite admitting to CNN that she has not read the full report yet, Senator Suzanne Collins, who is a potential swing vote in the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh, basically said, I believe that this was a very thorough investigation. Now, to give you some context about that and why I think that she's absolutely wrong, the investigation itself was very limited, less than a week. They were promised a week. They did less than a week. Originally, the White House said you can only talk to these 4 people, and then they expanded it to 10. There were 40 witnesses, 40 people willing to offer their testimony, many of them writing to the New Yorker, writing to the senators and the Judiciary Committee to say, I have a story to share. I know Brett Kavanaugh, right? I know, and I have something to say about these allegations. The FBI did not talk to them. So there's no universe in which this is a very thorough investigation, where that can be considered very thorough. It is absolutely not thorough. It is a sham investigation. But nonetheless, Suzanne Collins, well, that was enough to sway her. Great. Now, let's go to Jeff Flake, right? So Jeff Flake, I mean, he's out there making speeches. He's out there denouncing Trump for making fun of Blasey Ford. So a lot of people in the so-called resistance, right? We're looking at him as, oh, Jeff Flake, you're going to be objective, right? You're going to see this for what it is. No, I kept saying over and over again, Jeff Flake has no spine. He says pretty words and then votes with Republicans on whatever they want. Because, look, this judge is a gift to the donors. They spend millions of dollars. Special interest groups, corporations, super PACs have sent millions of dollars supporting Brett Kavanaugh. Why? It's because he's incredibly pro-corporate. That's why they want him on. You look, if you're a Republican and all you care about is, I want to give my donors more and more money so that when I'm done with Congress, I can go work for those same donors. Well, then this was what you're going to do. This is a no-brainer. And so for Jeff Flake, oh, he speaks about civility and he speaks about getting along and bipartisanship and hanging out with Chris fucking Coons. But at the end of the day, he's voting in favor. In fact, Here's what he said about the FBI investigation. Quote, I think Suzanne Collins was quoted saying that it was very thorough, but no new corroborative information came out of it. That's accurate. I wanted this pause. We've had this pause. We have the professionals, the FBI determine, given the scope that we gave them, that's very important, current credible allegations to go and do their review, which they've done. Thus far, we've seen no new credible corroboration, no new corroboration at all. I wanted to point out that he said, given the scope that we gave them. Let's talk about that scope. That scope that's incredibly limited. 10 people, less than a week. You call that an investigation? There are 40 people who all claim that they had corroborating evidence. They didn't talk to him. They went and talked to Ramirez. And she said, look, I got people that can back this up. Go talk to them. I have names. They didn't do it. They didn't follow up. They decided, we're not going to do that. Doesn't matter. We don't care. We were limited by the White House to not look into this so that the White House and Republicans would get their preferred result. That they can go out in front of the media and say, look, we didn't find anything. We had the investigation. We did everything the Democrats want. Now, the Democrats must be now moving the goalpost because they said it's incomplete. Feinstein and Schumer came out and said, well, we believe that this is incomplete. Grow a fucking spine and tell the truth. This is a sham investigation, an absolute sham of an investigation that they ended up getting the exact result that they wanted. Anybody who has any faith in the FBI shouldn't, especially when it comes to political investigations. They're deeply Republican. I wonder if the very same Republican MAGA people who are like, no evidence of Russian, meddling or interference or anything like that, it's the FBI. I can't believe the FBI. I wonder how they're going to feel now that the FBI has sided in favor of Kavanaugh. I wonder. No, you don't have to wonder. You already know the story. Look, Josh Marshall, I want to give you a quote here from him. He said that the FBI probe, constrained from the start by Republicans in the Senate and the White House, was nothing more than an orchestrated whitewash. Look, there's some things that I don't agree with Josh Marshall on, like when he talks progressive politics. But on this, he says, quote, all they wanted to do is to give cover to Republicans like Flake, Collins, and Murkowski so that the Republicans could end up getting Brett Kavanaugh put on the Supreme Court for the next 3 to 4 decades. He said, basically, quote, the fix is in, folks. The fix is in. And on that, he is absolutely 100% correct. It has been in from the beginning. As I said before, they will put him on the Supreme Court because that's what the corporations, that's what the donors want. And it's also, that's what Trump's vile base has wanted as well. It's going to happen. So, as I said before, this is the new normal. This is the way that Republicans want to play it. Well, all right, then Q can play that game. And for everybody who's really, really upset today, embrace the suck, because it's here to stay. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We got North Carolina Republicans being extremely classy. We'll talk about that coming back. And then Megyn Kelly. You're not going to want to miss those stories. So we'll be right back. Stay right here around the nation. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Run the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Got a super chat here I want to read from Coffee Crow. He says, the way that Kavanaugh, handled his testimony in the hearing alone exemplifies why he's not fit for that position. But of course, that doesn't matter. Allies on policy are more important to them than decency. Absolutely correct. I talked about yesterday how this is a long-term win for Republicans. It might not just be a long-term win. This actually might be a short-term win, too. So they might be, in the words of Donald Trump, or I should say, what is it? I can't think of his name. Winning. Charlie Sheen. Thank you. They're basically Charlie Sheen winning. We're winning. And I've got polls to back that up, by the way. So I'm going to do that in a couple of segments. But first I want to get through North Carolina Republicans and their attempt to smear Blasey Ford. Wonderful. Fucking classy guys, dude. But okay, before I do that, please share the stream. If you like what you're seeing, then hit the like button. Also, thank you for the super chats, and please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/TUITNation. Okay. That said, let's jump into it. The chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party is now under fire for sharing a supposed picture of Christine Blasey Ford from high school in an attempt to smear her. Now, the News and Observer reported on Thursday that Lanny Lancaster, Cabarrus County GOP chairman, had shared a photo that he claimed was Dr. Ford, posted by another account named Joseph Menorino. Now, he said of this picture, "This is the alleged sexual assault victim. Wow." Now, let me show you that picture so that you can get some context into this, because it is pretty disgusting, the attack. All right, so here's the picture. So, of that, he says, "This is the alleged sexual assault victim. Wow." No, that's actually not. That's actually not Christine Blasey Ford. There are pictures of her when she was in high school. She didn't look like that. That said, the whole point here is to basically say she is too ugly to rape. Oh, I mean, look at that face. Donald Trump himself said of his potential accusers, right? Or his accusers, alleged accusers. That face. Well, you think that I would go after somebody who looked like that? No, she was like a 2 out of a 10. There's no way. I mean, she's too ugly. It's not about that, dumbass. Again, that's not even the same person. But this is their attack against these women. It's the classic, I mean, I wouldn't rape somebody who was ugly. I mean, come on, she's too ugly for that. So I must not have done it. That is absolutely a disgusting attack. Holy crap. Now, Democratic congressional candidate Frank McNeil talked about this. He called him out. And he said, "Now Republican attacks on Dr. Blasey Ford are coming from inside our own 8th district. Cabarrus County Republican Chair Lanny Lancaster posted his nastiness on Facebook just last night. And he posted screenshots. So, calling him out. Now, Lancaster's like, oh, no, I didn't do that. What are you kidding? You're kidding me? What? No, I didn't say anything. I just said this is her picture. Quote, basically, the media is distorting the facts on this lady. Everything she said is made up. She has no evidence whatsoever. I support that theory. The media wants you to think that she was a beautiful young lady who was on her way home from the tennis courts. I just wanted you to see the real person. I wanted people to see that this is really her. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. He said, okay, that's not true. He did say something. He said he tried to pass off a fake picture of someone to say, how could he have done that with this woman? I mean, look at her. Now, here's the thing. again, that first of all, that's disgusting to be able to do that, right? Because it doesn't matter what you look like when it comes to rape and sexual assault. It's not a looks thing, it's a power thing. But he doesn't understand that, or he intentionally doesn't understand that. Not only that, but this is a 2012 meme that has been circulating on the internet for years. This is a meme. This isn't actually her. Trying to pass her off, this picture off as Blasey Ford, in order to discredit her, in order to make personal attacks about her looks, is the epitome of fake news. You are literally spreading fake news. You're a disgusting person, Lanny Lancaster, just like the rest of you. Just like the rest of your constituents, the people who support you. Just like the people who support Donald Trump. Just like the people who support Brett Kavanaugh. You are all disgusting people. Can't fucking stand you. You're going to sit there and you're going to attack a woman with her credible testimony. Of course, you attack her because you can't actually go against that testimony. You don't have any facts. You don't have anything except for, look at how ugly she might have been. Personal attacks. That's what this is. It's disgusting. And anybody who supports this kind of attack is also disgusting. I think I'm fairly clear about that. All right. Moving on. We got more class. Now, Megyn Kelly is repeating the claims, often heard by the far right, that the MeToo movement has robbed men of due process when it comes to just, oh, all you have to do is just you make an allegation, and the men, we've taken away their due process. They don't have due process anymore. Well, number one, this isn't a criminal investigation when you're talking about Kavanaugh. It's a job interview, so due process actually doesn't apply. But she says, oh no, it's all related to campuses and men getting attacked on campus. In fact, she's having this discussion with a couple of conservatives on the Today Show, and he says, man, we should stop giving women the benefit of the doubt. We should be giving men the benefit of the doubt when accusations come out against them. In fact, I want to show you this video.
The thing is, like, as Julie Swetnick's claims have collapsed against Brett Kavanaugh, where's the media talking about that, about the litany of problems this woman's had when it comes to truthfulness and so on? No, we've been covering it here. What do people say? You're victim shaming.
Right.
Come on. We are allowed to look at the credibility of an accuser. And that doesn't, and we as women need to be careful, because if there's a presumption of guilt in all cases, how are we going to get people to listen to us in the next case?
And Megyn, there's another danger of this, and we've seen it on college campuses in terms of anecdotal evidence, and that's the racial angle. And on college campuses, disproportionately, young men of color are accused of these crimes and then are put in a situation where they can't defend themselves. So we need to be very careful about how we walk down this road.
Absolutely. What happened on college campuses is sort of a harbinger of what's been going on in the country, where we swung the pendulum so far back against men, took away their due process rights. They don't have the right to cross-examine. They don't have the right to an attorney. They don't have the right to evidence. They don't have the right to see emails, for example, that a woman accusing them has sent, maybe saying it was consensual. They don't have that right. Or they didn't under President Obama when he was trying to do a good thing but overcorrected.
All right, so there's a lot in there about this, okay. For one, the Obama administration did put into place rules for colleges to protect the rights of the accuser, which they weren't protected before. And in a lot of cases, we have seen the accusers be attacked. In fact, that's kind of what Megyn Kelly's doing, attacking the accusers. And so, and that's what we saw during the Kavanaugh hearings as well, with Blasey Ford being cross-examined for her accusations against Brett Kavanaugh, which they didn't cross-examine him, didn't give him a polygraph. She did. She took a polygraph. She passed it. I'm just saying, the standard isn't the same here. Okay. Now, those same rules have been rescinded by the Trump administration. However, here's the thing. Men charged with sexual assault crimes still have due process. They weren't robbed of their due process. They still have it, which means you have to investigate. In fact, that's why Democrats called for investigations, which, strangely enough, if Kavanaugh wanted his due process rights and he's sitting there complaining about losing it, then he should have welcomed a real investigation. But he didn't. In fact, he wasn't in favor of an investigation. And now because of that, and because of the sham investigation that they did ultimately allow, those accusations are going to stick. If I were Kavanaugh, and if I didn't do it, if I were completely innocent like he claims, I would have wanted a deep investigation. A very thorough investigation to come out and say, look, we took 2 weeks, we took a month. They followed up all the different leads, and we looked at corroborating evidence, and ultimately at the end, we just couldn't find enough evidence so to corroborate these claims. That's what they should have done, but they didn't. They didn't do it at all. And now, of course, going back to the college campuses, because look, what conservative isn't going back and saying things about college campuses and how it's so unfair? For one, a lot of the stuff on college campuses, again, that's not criminal investigations, so there is technically no due process in that. This is whether or not you get to stay on campus or not. Completely different than criminal proceedings, and yet they continue to knowingly conflate these two different things in order to cast an indictment on all accusers. And that is the problem that we have. And Amy Holmes, who's a conservative pundit, you can tell she's a black conservative pundit. She, of course, brought the racial angle into it, where she said that young men of color are accused of these crimes. So now it's racist to accuse men of sexual assault. Really, I cannot fathom this. Oh, see, if you don't, like, if you believe the accusers, then you are being a racist. Only the Republicans can get this low. Only the conservatives can get this low. Again, they have their due process rights when it comes to criminal investigations, but when it comes to college campuses, where there is no criminal penalties for this, yes, you'll probably get kicked out of the college. Ooh, well, then maybe you shouldn't go around making sexual assault. Now, I'm not saying that false accusations don't happen. Of course they do, right? But compared to actual real sexual assault, it is very rare. It is very rare. But according to the Republican, the conservative worldview, MeToo has gone too far. Sexual assault allegations are everywhere. They're running rampant, and they're all mostly false, which is contradictory to the actual reality of the situation. But they don't care because, of course, this is all partisan. This is all about politics. Mitch McConnell, Megyn Kelly, they are conservative to their core. And in Judge Brett Kavanaugh, they see the end point of everything that they have ever wanted out of the Supreme Court. Very pro-corporate, anti-reproductive rights. They see this guy and they go, look, I showed you a poll the other day. 54% of Republicans say, I would support Kavanaugh even if he's found guilty. That's over half. That is a huge chunk of Republican voters. They don't care at all if he did it. They don't care about the women's rights. They see this as an opportunity to take over the Supreme Court for the next 3 to 4 decades, to stack it in favor of conservatives. That trumps everything. Everything. It trumps truth. It trumps facts. It trumps logic. And ironic that I'm using the word Trump. Because, of course, after all, Trump is also going to be a great beneficiary of some of the decisions that I think Kavanaugh will ultimately hand down. Never put it past Republicans to play dirty politics, because that's all they know. Okay. That said, I'm going to give you some terrible news. All right. Do we have that here? We do. All right. So over the last few months, there's been a lot of discussion about the blue wave coming in November. Republicans, or I should say Democrats, are excited because, oh man, there's going to be a blue wave. I mean, I see them talking about it on Twitter. We've seen a lot of polls where Democrats in general are ahead of Republicans in a lot of different races. In fact, a quick political report just recently put a bunch of races from toss-up to actually leans Democratic. So in some places, there is actually a good chance that there will be some Democratic wins. However, there's also the chance that Republican excitement ends up dwarfing low turnout by Democrats, and especially young people, millennials. Now, top Republicans are now telling Axios that they have seen a surprising and widespread surge in GOP voter enthusiasm, whereas enthusiasm among Democrats is actually starting to wane. Now, why would that be? Well, it turns out the recent hearings involving Brett Kavanaugh are the main reason. Now, the Kavanaugh debate, according to Axios, has dropped a political grenade into the middle of an electorate that has largely been locked into Democrats' favor for the past 6 months, said Josh Holmes, a former top aide to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Pointing to Montana, Indiana, West Virginia, Missouri, and Tennessee, Holmes said private polling shows the enthusiasm shift is unmistakable in the red states that will determine control of the Senate. So now, one piece of evidence here is the race in Heidi Heitkamp. So Heidi Heitkamp, look, I'm not in favor of her. She is a red state Democrat. She's a corporate Democrat, votes with Trump a bunch of times, and voted to confirm Neil Gorsuch. Now, on Kavanaugh, she actually did surprise me and said no. So she's a firm no. However, Joe Manchin in West Virginia, Manchin is still on the fence. Come on, Manchin. Are you serious? Jesus, man. Now, back to Heidi Heitkamp. Kevin Cramer, her challenger, is now leading Heitkamp by 12 points. So that race is not looking good. Holmes said, quote, North Dakota now appears out of reach entirely for Democrats. There's another example. Missouri Rising Action, a super PAC backing Republican Josh Hawley, said they got back numbers from pollster Jim McLaughlin showing Hawley leading Senator Claire McCaskill by 52 to 44. Down goes McCaskill. Possibly. Those are not good poll numbers. Those are terrible poll numbers. In fact, that swing went from, in June, McCaskill leading Hawley 46 to 42 to 52 to 44. Oh, that is disastrous. Now, not only that, but there are more polls. An NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll, that's a lot of different organizations working together, released yesterday found that the wide Democratic enthusiasm advantage that had defined the 2018 campaign up to this point has disappeared. In July, they report, there was a 10-point gap between the number of Democrats and Republicans saying the November elections were very important. Now, that is down to 2 points, which is a statistical tie. Republican pollster Glenn Bolger, co-founder of the Public Opinion Strategies, agreed that Democrats' enthusiasm advantage dissipated since the Kavanaugh Ford hearing. Before that, he said GOP lassitude was, quote, very scary. Now, look, this isn't the end of this. This doesn't mean that there's going to be a, red wave come November. Obviously, polls are still fluid. There are gigantic swings, and there could be gigantic swings the way back. But it's not looking good, man. Look, I think that this is definitely because of the Kavanaugh hearings. Look, the fact that some Democrats have actually stood fairly strong against Kavanaugh, especially when it comes to these allegations, that's been really good for the electorate. Not only that, Trump coming out and being incredibly strong, going out there and mocking Christine Blasey Ford, which they absolutely love. They ate it up. They ate it up with a spoon. They love when you mock sexual assault victims. And that's what Trump went out and did the other day. And of course, the electorate loved that. They got them super excited. Oh man, I can't wait to vote for Republicans that are being strong against Democrats. That's what this is about. Look, man, they're excited. They're absolutely excited. Because this is that red meat issue that they can coalesce around. The confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh. Now, it wasn't the tax cuts. The tax cuts weren't doing it. Ted Cruz isn't even running on the tax cuts. So anything policy-wise that the Republican Party has done during the entire tenure of Trump's presidency, Trump's term, hasn't really done anything to galvanize Republican voters. But you toss them some of this red meat, man, that's what gets them excited. Just pure, dripping red meat. And look, the Republican Party as of now, and I've said it before, they're the reactionary party. Any kind of progress, they immediately are reactionary to. The MeToo movement, they say, no, not me too, him too. What about the men? What about the men? Look, as a man, as a white male, I don't know. I think I'm doing pretty fine. I'm actually doing excellent. Women that I talk to, not so much. In fact, there's a disastrous statistic that I believe goes. Basically, everybody knows at least one person, at least one woman that has been sexually assaulted. They may not actually know because a lot of women keep it to themselves. But statistically, I think every man knows a woman who has been sexually assaulted. That is disastrous. And so, look, doesn't matter to them, though. Doesn't matter. And to the voters, if you mock those people that do come out, that do have the bravery to come out, they'll say, first, you're faking it, and secondly, you deserved it. That's the Republican Party. That's the GOP voter in a nutshell. And those voters are extremely excited. How do you counter that? Excited voters of your own. And unfortunately, as I just showed you, man, it's not looking good. All right. Moving on. All right. All right, hold on here. Anti-Semitism. Fuck anti-Semites. That's basically what I have to say. Will not have that on my stream. All right. So the other day, I was fairly excited to give the news where 350,000 Amazon employees had been given a raise to $15 an hour. So, look, I was excited. I gave Jeff Bezos credit. Obviously, a lot of credit went to Bernie Sanders. But in this case, I'm going to have to go back on that and say that I was actually wrong. I called this a good thing. I thought that it was a great victory for progressives and for the workers. Turns out, now that we know the details, the details are not good. So it turns out that this raise, yes, it's still going to happen. There's going to be a lot of thousands of workers. that are going to be gaining, a boost in their pay, which ultimately is a good thing. But they're actually robbing Amazon workers to pay for it. So they're, on the one hand, giving them a raise, and on the other hand, taking it away. Now, Bloomberg is reporting on Wednesday that the higher minimum wage comes at the expense of monthly bonuses and stock awards, which are being eliminated as the new higher wage goes into effect. Now, the company stated that because pay is no longer incentive-based, the compensation will be more immediate and predictable. So, look, here's the thing, right? Now, the thing that's important about this is, again, they're taking away the monthly bonuses, which, look, are decent. It's a good incentive to work hard, or to basically reward workers that, do work hard. They're saying, we're going to get rid of that. But the stock options, that actually is probably the worst part of this. Why is that? Well, Amazon employees get, one share of stock right now worth, I believe it was $2,000. It might double again. It might have gone up, might have gone down. So it really depends. They get that, I think, once a year. And then another piece of stock every 5 years. So you work there long enough, you can amass quite a few shares of Amazon stock and then sell them. And if it doubles, of course, you have the potential to make a lot of money. Now they're taking that away. And so, look, in return, Amazon might actually save a lot more money doing that. Now, the question is, do they actually need to? No. Look, Jeff Bezos makes about $10 million an hour. The company itself is worth over $150 billion. So, here's the thing. He can afford to do it, but he's deciding, I'm going to screw over my employees, pretend that I'm doing the good thing, but secretly, I'm actually going to save a lot of money. Why couldn't they just do it all at the same time? Why couldn't they give the wages and then also let them keep the benefits? You're not going to lose out on that much. You're already super, super rich. What would be the point? Look, here's the thing. I would understand a little bit more if Amazon was a publicly traded company, right? If Bezos wasn't, because Bezos has a lot of clout because he's the founder of Amazon. So you can't just fire the founder. He can go, look, you know what? I'm going to take a little less out of my profit. I don't need to make $10 million an hour. Maybe I can settle with making $8 million an hour instead, or $5 million an hour. That's not too bad. I'd take that. Just so that my workers can know that they're appreciated and that they get both stock options so they can have an ownership stake in the company, and also benefits and also a competitive living wage. Instead, no, I'm not going to do that. In fact, here's the thing, right? Now, going by the appreciation of his 78.8 million shares of Amazon stock, assuming that rate of growth, Bezos could pay for all 566,000 plus Amazon employees to all get $10 or more per hour at a cost of $11.6 billion, while still growing his own personal net worth by more than $80 billion each year. He can still be incredibly rich. But he decides, nope, I'd rather continue to get richer and not allow my employees to have any sort of benefits. Look, man, again, maybe I was too naive. Okay, too naive to think, hey, look, maybe they actually do care. Maybe they actually might do something good because it's great PR, right? But in the end, like all big, like all corporations, giant corporations, they decide they want to crush the worker under their heel. And again, we shouldn't be surprised that that's exactly what they do. more story. Let's do something good for a change, huh? Senator Bernie Sanders is proposing to break up the biggest banks in the country. Now, these financial institutions would include J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Now, why would he do this? Well, he apparently believes, rightly so, that they are too big to exist. Now, it turns out Senator Sanders will introduce a bill, or actually did introduce a bill on Wednesday, that will require the breakup of any financial company that has a total exposure of greater than 3% of GDP. Now, based on that threshold, which is a total of $584 billion, 6 banks and 4 non-banks would end up having to split up, break up the banks. Now, those are, as I said before, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Goldman, and Morgan Stanley. The non-banks are Berkshire, as well as the Prudential, Financial, MetLife, and American International Group. In a statement, he said, quote, "No financial institution should be so large that its failure would cause catastrophic risk to millions of Americans or to our nation's economic well-being. We must end, once and for all, the scheme that is nothing more than a free insurance policy for Wall Street, the policy of too big to fail." That is awesome. Now, he's absolutely right. A lot of these banks are too big to fail, all the ones that he mentioned. Look, they got bailed out last time. Why should we be on the hook to bail them out again? There is an eventual economic collapse coming. What have we learned since the last time that it happened? Well, the politicians on Wall Street learned nothing other than we can do whatever the hell that we want because we know we're too big to fail. The government's going to bail us out. And while we run our companies into the ground, we are going to be able to jump out the window with a golden parachute. We're going to make billions of dollars. And then the damage, the cost to bail it out is going to be on you. It's going to be the taxpayers. We have learned absolutely nothing other than how we can cheat the system. That's what this is about. All right, there's more. Now, the bill is also co-sponsored in the House by California Democrat Representative Brad Sherman. Well, hats off to you, Brad Sherman. I've never heard of you before, but great. Awesome. It's a great bill to sign into. He said, "By breaking up these institutions long before we face a crisis, we ensure a healthy financial system where medium-sized institutions can compete in a free market." Now, he also said, quote, "Had the too big to fail, too big to exist bill been law back then, it would have forced Lehman, with assets that were more than 4.4% of GDP, and Bear Stearns, with assets at 2.8% of GDP, to restructure. And therefore, we could have actually avoided the 2008 economic crisis, which I have to remind you, a lot of Americans haven't actually recovered from. African Americans and minorities were hit the hardest and still haven't recovered, but there's still a lot of people. Now, though, Wall Street has recovered. These corporations, these banks have recovered because we bailed them out. But normal, everyday American people have not. Wages haven't recovered. Wages are stagnant. Consumer wealth, that is not recovered. But housing prices have entered another bubble. Student loans have entered another bubble. They have absolutely learned nothing other than we can rob the system. We can rob the taxpayer, and we're going to keep doing that until there's another crash, and then we're just going to get bailed out again. Well, Senator Sanders and his piece of legislation say absolutely not. Now, of course, this isn't going to pass. Look who we have in Congress. Look who's the president. You think they give a shit? Absolutely not. However, this is something that Democrats, that progressives can rally around when it comes to the midterms or even going into 2020. We have to have a president that is willing to sign this piece of legislation and a Congress that is willing to advance it through. The time of too big to fail should have been over a long time ago. But since it's still around, it should not be suffered to exist longer than it has to. And if there's the abilities of us to retake Congress and to take the presidency, we can actually get this piece of legislation into law, hopefully before the next collapse happens and not after. So credit to Bernie Sanders, credit to Brad Sherman for supporting this piece of legislation. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think we should have done it a long, long time ago, but at least now it's here. And now I'd hate to be the person, the Republican or corporate Democrat that says no to this piece of legislation, because believe me, if you do, we're coming for you in 2018 and 2020. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please give us a like and a share if you haven't already. Go and like our clips. We put them out every day, of course, that we do a live show. So please go and do that. If you want, please consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. We do need that funding to continue our operation. So please help us out that way. Patreon.com/TYTNation. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, for tuning in, and for supporting the show. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you tomorrow.